Good morning, everybody. Whoa. My apologies. We're going to get going this morning. We have a lot to cover, not just the K-12 subcommittee, but all the subsequent subcommittees. I'd like to recognize Chairman Perkle to open us up in prayer, please.
Bow with me, if you will. Dear Heavenly Father, you are so gracious and kind to us, and we stand today in just awe of what you've done for us. And yet our hearts are heavy for those that are needlessly caught in a war. God, I pray that you'll intercede, that you will be with those that are hurting, be with those that are making decisions, and give them wisdom. This beautiful spring day, as we start to plant, Lord, I pray that you will provide safety for our farmers and wisdom today for us as we take on this budget. I pray that we will do exceeding great things for the people of this great state. In your name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Chairman Perkle. Members of the K-12 subcommittee, we're going to go ahead and start on the tracking sheet. Molly was able to get that out to you. If you have any questions, please just go ahead and hit your button, please. But let's just go ahead and start now on section 22 with decal. I'd like to first address universal changes within the entire tracking sheet. First and foremost is you'll see in 22.1.1, you'll see a $5,000 COLA adjustment. You're going to see that throughout both section 22, section 24, 25, and 45. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that for the rest of the time, but know that that's an enterprise change that you'll see highlighted throughout the tracking sheet. The first change I'd like to start with is 22.1.3. That's to reflect a change in the ERS employer contribution rate, and you'll see that as just a little bit over $3,800. Moving down underneath pre-kindergarten program, inside of 22.3.3, that's again reflect a change in the ERS employer contribution rate, and you'll see that a little bit over $197. That is it for decal. Moving on to section 24, Department of Ed. Starting with ag education, like to go ahead and point out that 24.1.6, that adjustment around the $2,000 and also the $5,000 within the fiscal that includes the area teachers and the young farmers. I'd like to now point you to 1.8 through 1.12. I'll go through those in a series. And 1.8 is to increase funds for 21 new extended day programs. That's $8,500 a program. 1.9 is for 5 certified personnel professionals, and that's for a program manager and 4 regional coordinators. 1.10, that's an effort to grow ag programs into Metro Atlanta and metro areas. Excited about that, Forsyth County. 1.11 is to provide funds for the Young Farmer Program, and you see there the counties that are listed. And then finally in 1.12, that is to provide additional funds for Georgia FFA due to the growth of the program. We're excited that we're seeing that within the state of Georgia. Moving on to central office, 24.3.7, you'll see that we're increasing the funds for the American Association of Adapted Sports Program. There is 150 in the base. This is an additional 150 to expand to Henry, Newton, and Rockdale counties. And then in 24.3.8, that's an elimination of a one-time pilot grant of $250,000. Moving into the charter schools, in 24.4.7, you'll see that there's an increase for the funds for the facility grants pursuant to House Bill 430 from the 2017 session. This essentially moves the grant from a little bit over $50,000 per school to a little over $86,000 per school, and that's a little over $3 million. I'd like to turn your attention to GNETs 24.8, 24.8.6. You will see that we had a reduction in funds due to a reduction in enrollment and experience decline. Effectively, we have less students and less teachers. 24.11, going to the non-QBE. This one, 24.11.5, I'd like to just pause for a second and recognize the budget staff, Sarah and Molly. They did a tremendous job here. This was to effectively move the RTF formula to provide greater consistency for them. Prior to this adjustment in formula, they had I'll say a lot of cycles. Now we're hopefully going to see in the future a more steady stream to them. We're excited about that, and that is what you see in 24.1.5. Moving on, 24.11.8. This is for an increase in feminine hygiene products for 5th graders. The base currently has 1.25 in. This moves it up to 1.45 with the additional 200,000. And finally, 11.9 effectively reflects the fact that we had a closure of an RTF, the Georgia Center. Moving down to pupil transportation in 24.14, you'll see that we spread out the program just a little bit of just an adjustment in terms of how the governor did it versus how we're doing it. You'll see the split between 4 and 2. Going into the QBE formula, there's a lot there, but what I'd like to point out are 2 things. First, effectively from 24.17 1 all the way through 12, those are formula true-ups. What I would like to do, though, is point your attention to 24.17.13. We went ahead and we took that out, the school nurse program, out of QBE, and you'll see momentarily in 24.20 where we made that a separate program unto itself. So just remember that $37 million. In the RESAs for 24.18, you'll see 18.3. That's to offset the austerity reduction for the RESAs. It also in 24.18.4, that restores the original reduction. And then finally, in 18.5, that reflects the increase to 5.4 to certified staff, and that's 16 directors, 80 consultants, and others. If we could move to 24.20, this is what I just noted regarding the school nurses. We pulled that out of the QBE and made it its own formula. So you'll see here now that $37 million is now reinserted here. And then you'll also see that we have provided for a 5.4% increase to the to the nurses, and that's for the RNs, a little over 50,000, LPNs, a little over 36,000 will be their new salaries, and that's almost 800 nurses. Turn your attention to technology and career education, 24.23.7. This is an increase to adjust the state-based salary schedule. This will affect 3,500 extended day teachers, 180 supervisors, and 82 apprentice positions. That is it for section 24. What I'd like to do, if possible, for the committee is quickly move to section 25. Oh, my apologies. You will see just a couple of things here in section 25. In 25.3.2, you'll see that we moved the multiplier up to 16. Please note, due to statute, we can only go up as high as 1650. So that's something that the committee should be aware of, given the fact that we're coming close to the cap. And then finally, in 25.4.2, you'll see there's an increase in the employer contribution on the ERS, and that's effectively setting up for the COLA. Wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of that. Turning to section 27, the Office of the Governor. We only have part of that, but for the parts that we have, the 2 reflections I'd like to point your attention to, in 27.8.7 and 27.8.8, you will see the Governor's Honors Program, and then in .8, you'll see the Leadership Academy. We have pulled those out of the Office of Student Achievement, and then if you turn to 27.9 and 27.10, we've made them their own programs. So you'll see that we have the Honors Program in 27.9, and then we have the Leadership Academy in 27.10. Both of those programs, we get very positive feedback from not just the participants, but the folks that put those on. That is the end of my presentation in terms of what we've seen. We're proud of the work that's been done. Are there any questions from the committee? Chairman Nix.
Thank you. Go back over the school nurses again. They were part of QBE. Now we're taking them out. They will not be part of QBE going forward. Is that okay? And there was when we were looking at whether or not they were going to get the increase in funds, it was said that they are not state employees. Okay. Okay. But in all future years, that school nurse part will be by itself. It will be not part of the QBE formula. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? What's the will of the committee?
Move pass.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We pass on to full committee. I thank everyone, and before we adjourn, I would just like to again point out, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Molly. Appreciate all the great help that you've done. We're adjourned.
Sam, my light's still on here if you want to turn it.
All right, if I get everybody's attention, we're going to try to stay on schedule here, keep rolling. This is the Appropriations Subcommittee of General Government, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Committee members, has everybody got a tracking sheet? All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Page 1, Section 4, Audits and Accounts. You'll see that well, obviously, we've got some statewide changes that you'll see throughout this document, first of all, but you'll see the first minor change is at 4.1.8. It's a transfer from the Audit and Assurance Services to Legislative Services. You can find that at 4.3.1. Next addition we have is in the State Accounting Office, our State Board of Accountancy. You'll see an ad there for $115,000 to allow them to bring in a revenue-generating auditor, definitely needed within this agency. And that's on page 3, section 11. Next, we've got DOAS, which will be at page 5, section 12. Again, these positions are not traditionally funded the same way a lot of our other agencies are as far as pay goes. So we're making some adjustments there for them. Also at 12.5.2, we're asking them to conduct a market study, salary study on all government employees. Banking and finance, there are no changes. Flipping on over to page 9, Department of Driver Services. We're restoring half of the reduction there of the $1.2 million that was for a CDL testing pad in Hazelhurst, I believe it was. So you'll see that there at 21.2.6. Also, we've got a small reduction at 21.2.8, where we are reflecting the completion of the Georgia ID outreach project. Flipping on over to page 11, Office of the Governor. You'll see that we are separating out the Office of Health Strategy and Coordination. It will now be a separate program. We've got a lot of coordination needs throughout the healthcare industry, and we think this will allow us to be able to do that. I know the nursing board has already brought some concerns about where our nurses are located, where they're working. We're already collecting where they're living, but we don't necessarily know where they're all working, and we think pulling this out and allowing them for the opportunity to do that and be there and help with a lot of these other groups will be good for our state. Next on page 15, section 29, Office of the Commissioner, you will see a reduction of $383,000. That's due to some excess that they've collected from some additional revenue from fees that they've obtained. So we're just going to keep that and allow them to use the remainder of those funds for positions that they need and some IT upgrades within their agency. And that's at 29.4.7. Also at 29.4.8, had lots of questions on this, and I think it's greatly needed. And it kind of goes along with all the mental health stuff that we've got going, and the speaker has. You'll see an ad for $127,000 for the mental health parity officer to help with the implementation of the mental health initiatives, and you'll see that addition there within the Department of Insurance. Next change you'll see at Department of Labor on page 17. As many of you know, this agency is somewhat funded by the state and somewhat majority funded by the feds. So we're just allowing them a little bit of one-time funds there, I believe, to just get them through till they can renegotiate their federal contracts to provide more pay for those employees that are majorly paid with federal funds. Moving on to Department of Natural Resources on page 19. We've got several ads there. We'll start at 34.3.6. You'll see some one-time funds there at EPD. Similar to Department of Labor, they have employees that are jointly funded, and so we're providing some one-time funds again to allow them to renegotiate some of their federal contracts so that they can obtain some more pay increases for those employees. But also at 34.3.7, you'll see 1.7 million provided to them to help with some turnover with their environmental compliance specialists and some of their engineers. They continue to lose people in those positions to the private sector. And so with the issues that we have in a growing state, we wanted to make sure that they can once again continue to work on that and retain some of those positions to make sure that we're keeping an eye on everybody and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. The next addition is at 34.6.5 and 34.6.6. This is on page 20. You'll see that we are restoring 22 game warden positions and some operations fundings that were cut in 21. And this is also to provide $750K to help with some fuel expenses for some of the law enforcement officers. Once again, just continuing to try to put back some money there, and with a continuing growing state and people doing more outdoors, we need more people out there keeping an eye on folks and making sure that they're protecting our natural resources. Next ad you'll see at 34.7.6. We've added $50,000 for operations and some part-time staff for the Council for the American Indian Concerns, and we're hoping that the Senate will match this. They have a lot of neat things going on, but actually didn't always have enough money to pay for their expenses when they had meetings and per diems, and so we're allowing them some funds there to do that, and hoping the Senate will continue to help us on that. Moving on, 34.7.7, we've just mentioned the transfer for capital maintenance on our facilities. Once again, we've mentioned before that throughout COVID, they've been used more than they ever have, and we also had a lot of reductions several years ago as well, so trying to catch things up while we have the ability to do that. Final ad here in Natural Resources is at 34.7.8. You'll see an ad for $300,000 for the SAM short line. If you have not experienced that, it's a great little train down in South Georgia And so due to COVID, they had a reduction in revenue, and as we've helped out several of our other authorities with reductions and losses during COVID, we're doing the same thing for those folks, and we'll continue to keep an eye on that moving forward. Moving on to state properties, at 36, that's page 22, section 26. You'll just see that we've removed the $45 million that was reflected in the 22. Department of Revenue, no changes. Moving on to Secretary of State, page 26, section 43. You'll see an increase of $406,000 in the Corporations Division. This is to allow them to retain some more revenue to provide for the COLAs for their state employees, which is typically how we do it within that division. Also at 43.5.8, we are asking the Board of Nursing to coordinate with the Office of Health Strategy and Coordination to help us collect some of our nursing data so that we can determine better where these nurses are and where they're working, and the shortages that we have across the state, and where they are located and working. And then State Board of Workers' Compensation, there are no changes. All right, I know I went through that fast. Do I have any questions from the committee? All right, no questions. Have a motion. I hear a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. We got a budget. Meeting adjourned.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the subcommittee, higher ed appropriations together. Chairman England said, take my time, make sure I go through this very, very thoroughly. That was not a good look. No, we're going to go through this quickly. We've had some good changes, and appreciate the work of the committee, but not only the committee, of our budget analysts to keep us on track here. Start off, first change, 41.2.1, we've added $324,201 to the Athens and Tipton Veterinary Laboratories. This is restoring austerity cuts in these laboratories and that contract. Next change, Enterprise Innovation Institute. This is 41.4.4. We're providing $250,000 for the Advanced Technology Development Center for startup and leveraging private dollars. Georgia Tech will match up to $1 million. Next change. Georgia Cyber Innovation Training Center, 41.84. You'll see that we have removed one-time funds. This was for a rural coding program in partnership with the Department of Education. This program was never started, so we're going to take those funds back. Next change, 41.10.6. We're providing professional development and student support for computer science pilot program in rural Georgia. This is a $600,000 ad, and it's a direct partnership with DOE in rural Georgia. Next change, 41.13.2. This is under Medical College of Georgia, Hospital and Clinics. Under the original governor's budget, they were removing the one-time matching funds. We want to continue this program for the Medical College of 3+ program. So we're actually providing $10 million, and in that we're directing them to utilize $5.2 million in existing funds, and then we're going to increase that amount by $4,800,000 as we continue to look at healthcare in Georgia. We think this is a great add. Public libraries, 41-14-7. You'll see here that we're going to increase the material grants by 10 cents. That'll go from 40 cents to 50 cents per capita. That's a $1,107,000 add. Next, you're going to see on their 41-15-4, there's an add of $1.2 million. This is, and actually, this is a transfer we'll see later on in the budget, later on. What we're doing here is we're adding or transferring this to teaching program to fund the first of a 5-year plan to expand capacity from nursing students across the entire university system. Again, this is $1.2 million, first of a 5-year commitment here. You'll see a small true up in the cost of living, the COLA, on 41-18-1. Another true up at 41-18-3. And then I'll point you to several line items with one explanation. 41-18-8, 41-18-10, 41-18-13, and 41-18-14. The governor recommended or had put in the budget some money for actually startup of some teaching programs. I want to repeat this. The House is for this. Our language is for this. We've stated that we agree with it, but this funding should come out of the university system, as it always has done. We don't want to set a precedent that we're funding new teaching programs, directly here. So we are going to stay with that precedent. We agree with this, but this should be something that's done from the university system. 41-18-15, you'll remember I was talking about the transfer, so that's where that $1.2 million that we referred to earlier. Next change, 41-19-3, we're providing funds to support research and for the cattle and poultry diseases and upgrade laboratories, so there's an add of $280,000 to the governor's original estimate. Next change, 41-231, a small change, a true up in the payments on the Georgia Military College Preparatory School. 41-23.2, there was an add here to the Georgia Military School, and this is for enrollment and growth and training and experience. Just trued that number up. We also had a small true up on 41-23.3. That was a true up, formula true up there. Next, we're going to Student Finance Commission of Georgia. Next change is on 44.1.8, and we're providing some new positions and operating expenses for new programs. As we know, we've ramped up and have several initiatives that are going through the legislature now in regards to law enforcement, behavioral health programs, and so this is going to require additional work from the Georgia Student Finance Commission. And this add of $1,062,000 is to cover employees and operating costs for these new programs. Dual enrollment will be the next change, 44.2.1. We have a savings of $3,144,000 there. What we've done is we've updated the projections, and again, we estimate that they don't need the additional amount, and we still believe that there's about a $3 million cushion there to meet our dual enrollment needs. 44.3.1, this is Mercer. This is their Hope Scholarship in partnership with Georgia as we try to look for more engineers helping us out there in Middle Georgia. This is getting a $113,000 add to get it up to the number of 720 awards that they're currently serving in as far as the engineering students there. Next change, Hope GED. This was a savings of $1,378,000. There are some changes going on to restructure the Hope GED program. And that would go from a $500 grant to the student, and I think there are changes that are being made in which we're going to go ahead and fund them taking the test. In other words, the test costs money, and we believe this is a better way to do it, to take that burden off of these folks trying to get their GED, and those tests run, I understand, $120, $160, $70 a piece. So we want to go ahead and take those the burden off of them and pay for that test. 44.81. I know we've heard from our private colleges that are a big partner with the state of Georgia, and you know, the fact that the Hope Scholarship was overlooked. So we have added $4,132,000, which is increasing the amount the students receive about $130 a semester. So we've heard you, and we're including that in the budget. Hope Scholarship Public Funds, there was a true-up, and we also needed some funds as we looked around on 44.9.1. There's a true-up. That's also, again, adjusting for the Hope Private. And there's also some COLA and ERS adjustments within that change there. Next is service cancelable loans, 44.15.1. We have added $260,000. And as y'all know, we're that first line item is dealing with our initiative to try to make sure we get full-time medical examiners. That has certainly been an issue as far as those examiners in the GBI. So again, we're going to put in a service cancelable loan there. We also heard from the Georgia National Guard that their scholarship program, and currently their projected needs need an additional $700,000. We've got a lot more folks that are using that scholarship, so we've added $700,000 to make sure we meet the needs there. 44.15.3, again, our service cancel loans is $1,440,000, and our initiatives to make sure that we're getting state law enforcement officers and others to pursue these degrees in criminal justice. 44.15.4, we're just recognizing, as we had put it in the amended budget, that $10 million. To enroll in degrees in qualified behavioral health professions. We're just recognizing that in the budget to utilize that amount that we went ahead and pre-funded in the amended budget. Again, 44.16.1, this is again our private colleges. This is the tuition equalization grant, and we've put $2,600,000 into this program. Technical College System of Georgia. Workforce development. We've looked at 44.4.1. This is having to do with the high demand career initiatives and apprenticeship programs. This was a state initiative, so we're going to let this, you know, we're going to let the Senate fund this. They're supporting. So there's a savings of $1.2 million there. And we're getting almost to the end here. We're going to, on 46.6.10, this is the dual achievement pilot program, another Senate initiative, and I think we're going to look at half of the projected cost of this that we're going to put into this initiative, and again, let the Senate try to look at the other half. We've also recognized the high cost of instruction programs in our technical college system, and we've made an add at 46.6.11, $15 million there. And we've also, at 46.6.12, provided funds to expand the aviation technical programs at our technical colleges of $2,194,000. With that, I also think that I think I missed one. Did I miss Middle Georgia? Let me go back. I think I missed one line item here, trying to tell you. Yep. Chairman England, I tell you, the pressure, it's too quick. There is another line item, important line item, and I want to say thank you to the committee and to the legislature. We've had a lot of initiatives this year on aviation, and particularly this committee as we've looked at the flight training and the AMP program. And I'm sorry I missed this one. This is at 4115.7, and we're increasing the funds for the Middle Georgia State University Aviation Career Program, adding $1,920,000 to that program as we seek to reduce the waiting list of pilots. We've got an internationally recognized program there and a big waiting list. With that, that is the budget changes. Are there any questions? Recognize for we may have a question. Hold.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank you. I think the funds allocated to the Student Finance Corporation for them to look over that and to get more people to get the money to the students is probably one of the best things we did in the budget. And I also didn't want it to go past the add back for the special fees. I think there's over $200 million and
Yep.
$20 million to bring Hope up affects, this fees affects tens of thousands of students. I think the Hope that the governor put in affects 75,000 students. Is probably one of the biggest things that the governor's done and this House has concurred with for students, making college affordable and accessible in a long time. And I appreciate the chairs doing that, and thank you for the moment.
Chairman Martin, you're right, and this House, especially this committee, this House will be proud of what we've done. This is an excellent budget for higher education. Again, back to your work and the work that we've done, truing up the formulas with Hope, making it more quickly tied in with the tuition and the fees. We have indeed helped Georgians as they pursue their higher education goals. With that, I think the Dean of the House has a motion. Move, second. All those in, any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, like sign. All right, the budget passes, and we will adjourn for the next subcommittee meeting. Thanks.
She's working. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to call the Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee to order. I would like to first go ahead and say mighty big thanks to Abby Day. Everything that is in this budget today that was a vision that got fleshed out and actually made good policy Abby is largely responsible. And I'm going to take a point of personal privilege to thank my boss man. This might be the last time I'm sitting in this chair to thank him for, and he's going to hate me for this, but honestly, what can he do now? And so thank him for what all he has done. He has the faith of Abraham to turn me loose on this budget and make the changes that we felt were necessary. And I do want to thank you, publicly acknowledge you the man. So in this budget, as we go through it, it is we can't go through it line item by line item like we did in many parts of other budgets, because we have four different sources of state funds, and the source and use of funds are very, very important. And so we actually accomplished this with some fund swaps that we'll go through as we start. Program additions to the GDOT budget include an investment of $10 million in airport aid. 47.1.2, we restored $1 million, and at 47.1.5, we've increased funding by $9 million. We also added $10 million to rail at 47.12.12. So in the balance of the budget, we ensured dedicated fees were used for the purpose for which they were intended. Transportation trust funds, which are, as you will recall, hotel motel fees, EV fees, and heavy vehicles, are used to fund ATL, Greta, CERTA. Also, debt service and transit. To accommodate the source and use of funds directed, we used fund swaps throughout this budget that we'll look at now. So trust fund dollars were replaced with state general funds at 47.1.3, 47.10.6, 47.12.8, and they were put into debt service. Similarly, trust fund dollars were replaced with motor fuels at 47.3.2. The bulk of this swap is found at the increase of $14 million in capital construction at 47.2.1, and the balance in recruitment and retention adjustments at, and hang on, 47.4.2, 5.2, 9.2, 11.2, 13.2, and 14.2. Trust funds were replaced with state general funds, and this is a different fund swap, at the adjustment to recruitment and retention in ports and waterways at 47.10.8 and 47.12.11. Adjustments to retention in transit at 47.15.10 utilize both trust funds. So while we're looking at the transit program, we did another fund swap, but for a different reason. HB 511 provided for a cap of 10% of transportation trust funds that can be used for transit. The number was 1.2 million over the cap, and that's reflected as a true-up at 47.15.7 and 47.15.8. You'll see true-ups at 47.6.3 and 6.4 to accurately reflect the base budget for the newly established programs as shown in rail, different subcategory at 47.12.5 and 47.15.5. And finally, 47.16.1 and 16.13.1 are true-ups to reflect positions that were left out of the $5,000 COLA. That is the changes that we made. It was a lot of verbiage for not many changes, but there were a lot of fund swaps in there. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. I've got a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, aye. Opposed? We got it. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Subcommittee meeting of Human Resources. Before I get started, I want to thank, just as Chairman Perkle just did, Terry England. What an amazing treat it has been to work with you. Martha Wigden and Christine Murdoch, and of course Amber Mack, seated here by me, who is our analyst, and this entire committee. I want you to know, each of you, how much I appreciate you. This is a place where we spend a lot of hours listening over the last 2 years particularly. We've listened a lot. And I think that each of you have worked with heartfelt compassion. And today, we're going to talk about some great impact that is going to help many people help themselves and their loved ones. So let's get started. Under Adult Developmental Disabilities, 15.2.8, the now options and comp waivers too. We're going to add to that. The governor began with 100. The House is going to add 225 more, which will give us a total of 325 waivers. 15.2.10 will increase the funds for the 1% increase for intellectual and developmental disability providers with approval by CMS. On 15.2.11, we will recognize money for the American Rescue Plan to provide for developmental disabilities provider rate study. This will be federal money to help with that. 15.2.12, we will increase the 5% increase to non-waiver family support to expand those services for additional families across our state. 15.2.13, you will see this language throughout the budget in many places. It will address the salaries for our state psychiatric hospital nurses and health aides to help them have salaries that are much more at a competitive market rate. We are seeing huge turnover. We are also going to see Jackson Healthcare services possibly step away, so it's going to be even more important that we step in and help sustain that. 15.2.14, this will recognize money in the federal medical assistance percentage, the FMAP, during COVID-19 epidemic and help them to be used for services. 15.3.6, this is again the nursing salary competitive market rate. This will be for forensic care. 15.4.1 will increase the funds to $5,000 cost of living adjustment for a full-time benefit for certain state employees that were not included in the original package. The next will be at 15.4.10 to increase funds for 3 additional assisted outpatient treatment programs. We have staggered, the implementation will be staggered, so this will be partial amount funding there. 15.4.12 will increase funds for the Georgia Housing Voucher Program. This will bring us into alignment with, as we continue to march forward in the DOJ settlement agreement. It will increase the governor's amount of 200 with an addition of 300 to give us approximately 500 more housing voucher slots. 15.4.13 will provide housing, the fee for the housing network manager to support that housing voucher program. Next, we're going to address a few measures that fall under the House Behavioral Health Package. We'll start with 15.4.14 to provide funds to establish a statewide assisted outpatient treatment center database. 15.4.15 will provide funds to establish an assistant outpatient AOT oversight unit within the department. And 4.16 will provide funds for the co-responder expansion to 5 new sites. Next part of the House Law Enforcement Package at 15.4.17 to increase funds for a new 16-bed and 50 temporary observation chair behavioral crisis center. This will most likely be in Fulton County. Provide for 5, and then the next is 15.4.18, which will provide for 5 additional community service board caseworkers and 5 new mental health accountability courts. 15.4.19 will provide the salary supplement for 12 employees that work directly with our mental health accountability courts. The next one at 15.4.2 is a combination of the House Behavioral Health and Law Enforcement Package, which will increase funds to establish a technical assistance coordination center for mental health accountability courts. 15.4.21 will increase funds for additional Georgia Crisis, the GCAL line, which is set to come online in this July. This will give support staff and help them manage the hotline expansion. 15.4.22 is once again the nursing salary increase this focused on mental health. 15.4.23 will increase funds for the new 18-bed adult medical psychiatric unit at Grady Memorial Hospital. 15.4.24 will provide one-time funds for a behavioral health provider rate study. This rate study will be done with state funds. 15.4.25 will recognize money for the temporary federal MAP assistance percentage, the FMAP, during COVID-19 to public health emergency utilized for core mental health services. 15.6.4 is to add funds to open services for extra special people, a program centered out of Athens, but that is expanding through Rome, Atlanta, and Gainesville. 15.6.5, this again is the hospital nursing competitive salary rate, and this will be on child and adolescent needs. 15.6.6 will provide funds for the Matthew Reardon Center for Autism. 15.8.4 will annualize the funds to maintain the services for the Georgia APEX program. 15.9.6, you will begin to see this throughout this sector of the budget. This is to address the long request of our SAGs, our Special Assistant Attorneys General. Their rate will be changed from $57.50 an hour to $77.50 an hour. It will also, the next at 15.9.7, will increase their paralegal hourly rate from $25 to $40. 15.9.8 will increase funds to provide administrative infrastructure to help with the opioid litigation settlement. This will establish the activities of the Opioid Recovery and Remediation Fund Advisory Council. Next is at 15.10.6 to provide funds for the capital maintenance and repair. This is funded at $2 million in the amended. So with the $3 million that we are adding now at this point, it fully funds the $5 million that you will see there in the governor's. 15.10.7 will be to provide funds to increase those salaries again for the nurses, and this will be in our hospitals. Next, and that is behavioral health. It's a lot of good and a lot of goodness. Next is the Governor's Office of the Child Advocate. We will increase funds for 2 investigators and operating expenses to expand capacity that they need. This will be investigators, tech updates, and staff field deployment. Next, we'll move to the Department of Human Services. We'll start with after-school care. They will be recognizing funds that exist from ARPA funds. At 28.3.6, provide funds for our at-risk girls. This will be a new endeavor, PACE Center for Girls in Macon and Bibb and Peach counties. They've well proven the work that they're able to do to deter the dropout and criminal activity of young women. Next, under child support services, we will increase those special assistant attorneys general too in the place where they are so needed here throughout DHS. Their hourly rate will be the same. It will move to $77.50, and on 28.4.7, the paralegals that support them will be $40. At 28.5.9, again, these will be the SAGs that support CASA and expand that capacity. I'm so sorry, not the SAGs, but just to support the court-appointed assistant advocates there. 28.5.10, this is where we see the SAGs again. And this is where the original request came from, actually, from DFACS, because of the heavy load that they carry. So it is very good that we are going to increase their hourly rate to $77.50. And then at 28.5.11, their paralegals as well to $40. 28.7.6 will transfer money. You will see this show up in just a minute at 28.9.6. We are simply moving this to a better place, and this is MemoryNet. Now in elder abuse, at 28.8.6, this will also be the SAGs to increase their salary to that same $77.50 for those who work with elder abuse cases, and for the paralegals to increase to $40. Next, at 28.9.5, we will increase the funds to create the Dementia Care Specialist Program to help screen for memory disorders and support affected families. At 28.9.6, this is the transfer that I mentioned early. Along with the transfer, we are adding $3 million to increase capacity across 5 sites, 2 diagnostic centers, expand training, and increase family support and outreach for 1 telemedicine hub and tech. At 28.9.7, we will provide funds for the non-medical Medicaid home and community-based services that take care of so many people across our state and help them stay in their own homes. The funds, currently, this will help about a little under 1,800 people, and the wait list there is over 9,000. So this is a great step for us to take to do that. At 28.9.7, we'll provide funds. Oh, excuse me, we already just did that. There's a lot on here, y'all. I apologize. It takes a minute to explain it. Okay. Now, let's go to 28.12.4. Is that correct? To provide funds to increase the annual foster care clothing allowance. Our families who take care of foster children do not get much money, but we're going to increase this across each of the categories by $275 per child. Next is at 28.9.5 to increase the funds to create, excuse me, flip the page, y'all. Okay. 28.18, Family Connection. Now we're back on track to provide funds to increase the operational support in each and every county's allocation to $52,500. This will restore their cut and adds also another $2,250 to each and every county, also adding $100,000 to their partnership. This money has a 1-to-1 federal match, so that will also benefit our state to use that federal money. Now, at 28.3.7, we'll provide funds for capital maintenance and repairs. We have disagreed with the governor's recommendation here and asked that GVRA use the bond money that they have at this time to take care of this maintenance. At 28.28.8, restore the funds for independent living services. The full cut for this organization was $809,000. We're going to provide $200,000 at this time, but they do have a 4-to-1 match, so that allows them to maximize that and reach almost exactly their request. Next, we're at 28.23.9. This will provide funds to help the operation of the Georgia Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. 28.23.10 will provide funds to support the opening of the priority service categories within GVRA. And 28.23.11 will restore the funds for the Georgia Radio Reading Service. And that's all we're doing for that group. Okay, let's move on to Veterans Services. 48.2.4. This is the Veterans Cemetery in Augusta, Richmond County. 48.2.5 will increase 1 groundskeeper maintenance technician at the Georgia Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Glenville. 48.2.6 will reflect a change simply in the name of the Veterans Cemetery to Veterans Cemeteries. And then also a very important and final add here will be at 48.4.6 to increase the funds for a director of suicide prevention for our veterans who will specialize in that outreach with their mental health issues. Okay, So, committee, are there any questions? Not seeing any. I hear a motion to do pass and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by like sign. Thank you so very much.
Good job. Great.
Yeah. Can I get Brian here? He keeps me straight. There's another one down there. Okay, we're on a tight time schedule here, so let's get started. I'd like to call this Public Safety Subcommittee of Appropriations to order. And I do have a couple things to say. This is a pretty extensive budget, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly if I can. We have a lot of new additions because of the Speaker's Law Enforcement Initiative and the Behavioral Health Initiative, and we're adding a lot of positions, and a lot of them were done last week. And I would like to express my thanks to our chairman, Terry England, and particularly the staff. You know, one of my analysts has been out she's got a bouncing new baby boy, and she's missed the last 2 months. And Brian has been my go-to person, and he had to leave last week for about 3 days when we got all this new law enforcement initiative added. So the staff took it up, assisted me, and we've got it all together here, but it's pretty extensive, and I'm going to run through it pretty quick. Under the Court of Appeals, 5.1.6, increased fund for the staff attorney salary scale. We zeroed that out. They're getting their $5,000 COLA. You'll see that repeatedly throughout this presentation. 5.1.7, provide funds to annualize the salary and commute expenses for one judge. It also includes the other judges. What happened here is all the judges per diem is by law is supposed to be the same as the legislature, so we've had it all in there, and it comes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Provide funds to analyze the salary and commute expenses for one judge. That's one judge now that's on suspension with pay. We're certainly not going to analyze that. They have a substitute judge in there, and we hope that's going to be resolved here in the near future. 5.1.14, increased funds for per diem adjustments. That's what I was talking about the first time, and that's $88,095. 5.2.4, provide funds for annual leave payouts for term clerks. We said no to that. They're short-term employees. 5.2.5, increased funds for a staff attorney. This is under the business court. We trued it up. It's actually $8,087 instead of $10,000 because of the salary increase in addition to the COLA. 5.2.6, increased funds for the senior deputy clerk. We trued that up. They got the $5,000 increase, and it comes $8,087. Increased funds for a judicial assistant. We said no to that. The COLA covered that expense. Moving on to 6.1 and Council of Accountability Judges. 6.1.4, restore the operating funds of $74,374. Moving down, judicial council, 6.4.7, 4.8, and 4.9, increased funds for these three areas. And what we've done is trued them up to reflect the $5,000 increase for each one of them. Six point 4.10, increased fund for a policy council 1 position. We updated it to reflect the 5,000 increase again. Instead of 129, it comes to 137,000. 6.4.16, reduce one-time matching fund for the child support collective grant. We took back $21,600, just a one-time grant. Moving over to juvenile courts, under 7.2.1, increased fund for juvenile court judges' salary supplement for accountability courts under House Bill 274. We zeroed that out because House Bill 274 hadn't passed yet. If it does pass, it will be funded. Section 8, prosecuting attorneys, counsel of superior court judge clerks, 8.1.1, increased funds for operations to reflect restoration of funds for superior court clerks throughout the state in execution of their duties. They asked for $78,000. The fiscal year 20 cut was actually $20,000, and that's what we gave them back. 8.2.8, increased funds to reflect an adjustment to agency premiums for Department of Administrative Services. We zeroed that out. Many of you know that throughout all the budget documents, that's included in the overall document, and it's already paid for. 8.2.10, provide funds for 4 additional assistant district attorneys to support juvenile courts in the Bell, Forsyth, Chattahoochee, Norland, and Patella court districts, $548,000. That was just trued up. 8.2.12, 13, and 14, there's a new, every time you get a new judge, you get a new ADA. So the Blue Ridge Circuit, the Mountain Circuit, and the South Georgia Circuit all got one at $72,581 apiece. Moving down to 8.3.10, increased fund for personal services for 1 payroll specialist. That one is just trued up again. 8.3.11, increased fund for personal services for 1 animal abuse resource prosecutor position. We eliminated that and didn't fund it. Superior Courts. Council of Superior Court Judges, 9.1.4, provide funds for targeted salary increases. We said no to that because of the $5,000 COLA. 9.2.5, it's another increase for recruiting and retention for qualified staff. We said no to that because they're already funded in the COLA. 9.3.14, provide funds to increase the state salary for Superior Court judges. We said no to that once again because of the COLA. 9.3.16, provide funds for a salary increase for law clerks to improve retention. Governor's recommendation was $1,862,000. We provided $450,000. What that does is it takes the law clerks to $50,000 per year, which gives them parity with assistant district attorneys and public defenders. 10.1.6, provide funds to analyze daily allowance days and commute mileage for 1 additional justice who, this is under the Supreme Court, 10.1.6, who lives 50 miles away, and also includes increasing per diem for all the justices to meet the raise that the legislature got. And that's $53,954. 10.1.9, increased fund for a salary adjustment for the Georgia State Trooper assigned to the Supreme Court, $10,585. 10.1.12, increased funds for personal services for 1 floating staff position. We said no to that. 10.1.13, increased fund for personal services for 2 central staff attorney positions. We gave them 1, which is $159,708. 10.1.14, increased funds, provide a 3% salary adjustment for law clerks. We said no to that. Department of Community Supervision, no changes. Department of Corrections, and you'll see this throughout the Department of Corrections and throughout Juvenile Justice. And Under 19.2.7, increase fund for a $2,000 pay increase for field correctional officers positions. These are for correctional officers who will get their $5,000 pay raise and an additional $2,000. You'll see, and I'll speak to it a little bit more in juvenile justice. They have such a high turnover rate, they can't keep employees, so we're giving them $5,000 plus $2,000 more. 19.3.7, once again, it's the $2,000 pay raise. 19.4.6, again, it's the $2,000 pay raise. 19.7.1, private prisons. They asked, the governor's recommendation was $3,210,000. What we've tried to do is keep parity. And private prisons are sometimes co-located with our state prisons. What this will do is bring their salary up. It'll maintain parity with salary. What happens is if one or the other gets a higher salary, they walk across the road and go to work for the other one. So if we're going to keep the private prisons going, we're going to have to pay. All this money goes strictly for salaries and nothing else. It's $12,716,128. State prison provide funds for personal services and operating costs to establish a regional offender transportation hubs. In the past, what happens is when somebody gets sentenced and sent to the state prison, the sheriff's departments have been responsible for taking them there. The sheriffs have asked that that responsibility be transferred to the Department of Corrections. After some consulting, both parties agreed that we would establish transportation hubs. The sheriffs would take them to the transportation hubs, which is a secure environment, and transfer them to the Department of Corrections personnel, and they would take them to the state prison. So that dropped $7,229,000 that was in the governor's budget to $4,204,407. 19.8.10, once again, is the $2,000 increase, as is 19.9.6. Department of Defense, no changes. Office of the Governor, Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Under 27.6.5, there was some consternation in that the overwhelming majority of the positions in GEMA and Homeland Security are paid for under federal grants. And there wasn't any provision in there for them to get their $5,000 increase, and we've added that in here at a total of $704,841. Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Every one of these items in here is under the law enforcement officer grants, and except one, and I'll identify that one when we come through. Most of them are increased in personnel. 30.1.6, increased fund for one human resource generalist position to address the increased workload. We're going to add 67 new positions in the GBI, so we've thought that one human resource person would probably be able to handle that. 30.1.7, provide funds for capital maintenance and repairs. Many of you remembered in the amended budget, we funded capital maintenance and repairs for the headquarters complex. This is for all the GBI offices across the state at $1,100,000. 30.3.6, provide funds for 22 crime lab positions in the chemistry, forensic biology, and toxicology sections. $3,179,000. Funds 25 new positions. 30.3.7, increase funds for 10 positions in the medical examiner's office to address increased workload. It adds 6 additional positions for 5 death investigators and 1 supervisor for $2,787,903. 30.3.8, provide a salary adjustment for death investigator specialists and crime lab scientists to improve retention, $2,573,000. 30.3.8, increase funds to outsource chemistry and firearm cases to address the case backlog, $800,000. They outsource these to private labs that that work in accordance with the GBI standards. 30.4.7, provide funds for 4 full-time positions. We did that in the amended. What this does is annualize those 4 positions at $579,936. 30.4.8, provide funds for 15 special agents, 6 criminal intelligence analysts, and 1 help desk analyst position and associated operating expenses for the Gang Task Force to Combat Crime, $4,584,429. 30.5.7, this is the one item that's not in the law enforcement, that's Speaker's law enforcement program. It's the annualized funds for first responder grants. And actually, this is carried forward from our amended fiscal year 22 budget, an amount of $375,000. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Accountability Court Judges. 30.6.6, increased funds for 5 new mental health accountability court managers. This is not only in the law enforcement initiative, but it's in the mental health program, behavioral health program too, at a cost of $1,081,510. 30.6.7, increased funds for 5% salary increase for accountability court managers. 30.6.8, provide funds for 20 unfilled accountability court manager positions, $1,270,000. 30.6.9, restore operating costs, $377,000, and provide fund for 1 treatment monitor, 1 technical assistance specialist, and 1 data analyst to ensure fidelity across behavioral health programs. 30.6.10, provide funding for an additional felony drug court, veteran treatment court, and family treatment court. And 30.6.11, increase funding for accountability court participation census. What this would do is allow 277 more participants in the accountability courts. Moving now to juvenile justice. As I said previously, you'll see this 2,000 increase throughout here, just like it was in corrections. When we held our hearings in the amended budget, the commissioner of this agency told us that there was a 97% turnover rate last year in juvenile justice corrections officers, which is, I don't know that we have the ability to sustain that. So we thought a $2,000 increase would help. So 31.2.8 is that $2,000. 31.3.9, provide funds for capital maintenance and repairs. We already funded that in amended 22, so we zeroed it out. 31.3.10 is the $2,000 increase again for juvenile court corrections officers. And then we go down to 31.4.11, provide funds for capital maintenance and repairs. Once again, we funded that in amended 22, so we zeroed it out. 31.4.12 is the $2,000 increase for the juvenile court officers again. Moving on to the Department of Law, 33.1.8, provide funds for 3 positions to expand the human trafficking unit to address anticipated workload. The governor asked for 3 positions. We gave him 6, which doubles the amount to $634,968. $31.9, 1.9, and 31.10 are provide funds for 2 cybersecurity positions. In 9 and 10 is to provide funds for 1 assistant solicitor general. Moving over to pardons and paroles, no changes. Public defenders, 37.2.5, 6, analyze funds for assistant public defender to reflect the new judgeship in Cobb. Actually, 6, 7, and 8 are all 3. They're new judges that we're annualizing their salaries. And then you come to the next 3, 9, 10, and 11, increase funds for each time you get a new judge, you get a new public defender, just like you do for an ADA. The first ones are annualizing the funds, and the next 3, 9, 10, and 11, are for the 3 new judgeships that are going in this year, in the Blue Ridge, the Mountain, and the South Georgia districts. 37.2.12, increased funds for 4 juvenile assistant public defenders. And what we've done, once again, in all these is try and have parity. That's $72,581, so the salary matches the assistant district attorney's salaries. 37.2.13, increased fund for circuit public defenders and placement of assistant public defenders to provide for ongoing recruitment. $290,324. 37.2.13, increased funds for circuit public defenders and placement of assistant public defenders, provide for ongoing recruitment and retention, $4,232,423. And once again, this is all in the law enforcement initiative. 37.2.14, increased funds to revise the pay scale of assistant public defenders for ongoing recruitment, $197,616. And 37.2.15, increased funds to establish 3 new conflict offices. There'll be one in Macon, Milledgeville, one in Columbus, Americus, Albany, and one in Tifton, Waycross, at a cost of $2,039,754. Moving on to the Department of Public Safety, 39.2.1. The governor didn't fund the $5,000 increase for the Capitol Police Services. We put it in at $546,375. 39.2.2, annualized funds for $1,000 salary increase for the Capitol Police Services with a jurisdiction to combat crime in the Metro Atlanta. This is criminal interdiction initiative, $109,275. Moving down to 39.46, provide funds for 1 trooper school with 75 starting cadets. The governor recommended $3,176,000. We're very familiar with the fact that almost 50% of those that start trooper school don't finish it, so we reduced it to $2,599,353 to anticipated attrition. 39.4.7 is to annualize a 10% salary adjustment for the Troop C officers who are also working on a criminal interdiction unit in Atlanta. They're working nights and weekends and in a dangerous situation. We thought that a 10% increase was valid. 39.4.8, increased funds provide 10 additional SWAT unit troopers and 10 additional Nighthawk DUI troopers at a cost of $2,366. That's 20 additional troopers. Most people don't realize 105 counties in Georgia have no SWAT capability, and every time there's a SWAT call, the troopers have to respond. Many times they travel great distances. They have 4 armored vehicles stationed around the state, and they have part-time people that are on SWAT that are in close proximity to first respond. And 39.4.9, increased funds for fuel expenses to maintain patrol hours, $650,000. I don't know how many know, but back during the recession in the budget, the Department of Public Safety ran out of money and didn't have any gas for a pretty good period of time. And if it wasn't for the sheriffs and local government who provided them with gas, they wouldn't have been able to do anything. 39.6.7, increased funds for 2 peer counselors, 1 social worker, and operating expenses to enhance public safety officers across the peer counselors and health clinicians statewide, $379,000. They've already responded to 2,000 first responder officers initiatives with counseling. Each counselor has 30 counties, so this $379,500 would be a great assistance to them. 39.7.6, this is under the Georgia Firefighter Standards and Training. Increased funds for an online testing database, allows for expended online testing. And then 39.7.7 underneath it provides funds for contract IT support to keep the online testing capability running. Peace Officer Standards and Training, no changes. Georgia Public Safety Training Center, 39.9.8, provide funds for capital maintenance and repairs, $2,125,000. We funded that in the amended budget, and so we zeroed that out. And that concludes it. Any questions from anybody on the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for what you've done for the private prisons. I appreciate you working so diligently with the people and working this out that I think we've reached some type of parity here. Thank you so much.
Well, if we're going to keep them open, we're going to have to at least fund their salaries. And Chairman Ballinger.
At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Motion carried.
Good morning, everyone. We'll call our meeting to order. This is the Health Subcommittee of Appropriations. Before I get into the explanation of our budget, there's a lot of good things in here that we can all be proud of, and I think we need to give a special shout out to our chairman, Chairman England, and our budget office, Martha and Christine, and our crackerjack analyst, Tara, right here in our subcommittee that worked on this. So I'm going to run through this. And I think you can all be proud of the things that are in here and what we're recommending. We begin with 17.1.7. This is to provide funds for the Medicaid Management Information System. It was funded in the 22 budget. This is a carry forward to fund also in the 23. Same thing, 17.1.8. This is the Enterprise Analytics Solution Data Warehouse. Same thing, funding in 23 like we did in 22. 17.1.9 is an add of $1 million. This is to provide for a study on reimbursement rates for mental health care providers. This is part of the House Behavioral Health Package, and there'll be several items throughout the budget that you'll see in there with this. 17.1.10, this is where the department shall begin preparation for repository for tracking, analyzing, reporting information as it deals with healthcare entities of suspected mental health parity violations and so forth. The language in there, and they'll do that out of existing funds. This is also part of the House Behavioral Health Package. 17.4.5, this is an elimination of one-time startup funding for federally qualified health centers. 4.6, this is funds for 2 federally qualified health centers for behavioral health expansion startups. This will be the South Central Primary Care and Coastal Community Health Services. 17.4.7, this provides funds to expand mental health first aid training to address the needs of our frontline workers to identify, de-escalate, and refer persons in crisis. $74,000, this will be through the AHEC program. 17.4.8, this provides funds to expand their RN reentry program that AHEC has started. It's been very successful in getting RNs back into the workforce. Under 17.5.4, this is just a reduction to true up the reduced funds for reflected projection expenditures that they were not able to use all of that money. Under 17.7.2, there again, this is a truing up of that, and this comes about because of the extension of the public health emergency extension. You're going to see this in several places as we go through there. 17.7.10, this provides for a 10% reimbursement rate for long-term acute care hospitals and inpatient rehabilitation centers. 7.11, reduce funds to skilled nursing centers to reflect moving to the 2020 cost reports. 7.12, this is a 5% reimbursement rate increase for ventilator patients, $424,000. 7.12, that's that one, excuse me. 13 is this is for provide funds increase reimbursement rate for home and community-based service providers to offset the cost of fingerprinting requirements. This is a cost they've been having to deal with, and this gives them some money to help offset part of that cost. 17.7.14, this is to provide funds to increase reimbursement rates for medical nutritional therapy. We understand there are 1,200 nutritionists in the state. 6 provide Medicare services because of the low rate. So this is to help offset that and get more people involved in the program. 17.7.15, this provides a 10% rate for 2 dental extraction codes and a 7% increase for 17 restorative codes, and you'll see this in 3 programs as we move through the budget. 17.8.1, this is where we're able to garner some savings there simply because of the extension of the public health emergency extension in our FMAP rates. Same thing with 17.8.2, same thing there with that. One item that there's no change, but I want to point this out to you, 17.8.6, the governor funded $85 million to provide funds to eliminate the attestation and to increase reimbursement for all providers at enhanced rates for like 108 codes. This is a project we've been working over some years, and want to thank the governor for doing that, and our providers will be able to enjoy some increase there, and it'll help keep more providers in the program. 17.8.12, this 8.13, I'm sorry, provide funds and direct the department to submit a 1115 waiver to provide Medicaid benefits for individuals with HIV. 8.14, provide funds to increase reimbursement rates for the medical nutrition program that I mentioned to you earlier. 8.15, there again, this is the increase in the dental codes. And then 8.16, provide funds to direct the department to submit an 1115 waiver to remove the 5-year waiting period for lawful permanent residents for Medicaid. 8.17, this provides funds to select OBGYN codes to bring them up to the 2020 Medicare rate. They were not affected by the attestation increase. They didn't get those, so this would put them on parity there also. 8.18 is an addition to provide funds for value-based purchasing. 17.9.2, increase funds to reflect the loss there again of the savings we're able to garner because of the public health extension. 9.4, provide funds to increase reimbursement rates for our nutritional therapy, as we mentioned earlier. Also 9.5, that's the dental increase, as we mentioned. And then 9.6, there again is the values-based purchasing addition. 17.11.4, provide funds to implement a behavioral health care workforce database. This comes out of part of the House Behavioral Health Package. It's an addition of $400,000. 17.12.2, this was an increase in that to go from the 136 slots to a truing up of the actual number, which is 199 slots. 17.12.3, provide funds for a pilot program to perform echocardiogram of pregnant and postpartum women to address the maternal mortality. And what we're doing is we're removing this from this area here, and you'll see it again in public health in just a minute. So we zeroed this out, and we'll talk about it when we get over to public health in just a moment. 17.12.4, this provides funds to support a new residency program in primary care at Archibald Medical Center. 12.5, this provides funds for fellowship positions at Augusta University, gynecologic oncology, public health focused medicine, and rural primary care. 12.6 provides one-time funding for a state dental workforce assessment to evaluate current and future needs of the dental profession in the state. 17.12.7 and 12.8, this is a small addition to utilize existing funds to provide funds for startup of a residency program at Southern Regional Medical Center and Southeast Georgia Health System. And 17.12.9, provide capitation funds for 7 residency slots at Emory University, 2 OBGYN, 1 psychiatry, and 4 in internal medicine. 17.13.2, use existing funds as a slight addition to add to this to expand the accelerated track to include forensic pathology. This is our efforts to try to increase the number of forensic pathologists that there seems to be a shortage of in the state, and we hope this will help with that. Under Workforce Board, 17.14.1, this provides funds for the startup and operating support of a new nursing program at Morehouse School of Medicine. They'll be turning out more RNs over there in their program. 14.2, provide for funds to support child and adolescent psychology and psychiatric residency programs there at $376,000. Under 17.15.1, this provides funds for additional loan repayment grants for physicians, physician assistants, and advanced nurse practitioners that we've done in the past, and the demand has been such that this will bring the revenue up to the point that it'll be able to take care of all that would help with their student loans. 17.16.1, this provides funds for the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine South Georgia campus to support the growth that's in Moultrie. Uh, 17.18.4, this provides funds for a data management system to track licenses, complaint inspections, and investigators. This comes out of the House Law Enforcement Package, as well as 17.18.5, 2 additional agents to work in that under the Law Enforcement Package as well. On public health, 38.1.5, this is the $680,000 ad that we moved from community health over there. This is to provide that pilot program for echocardiogram of pregnant and postpartum women to help address the maternal mortality issue. 38.1.6, this is provide funds for the Sickle Cell Foundation to support care coordination and expanded access to testing. It's a $265,000 ad, almost $750,000 in the base, so it's getting close to $1 million to help combat sickle cell. 38.3.7, now you're going to see this in many areas here in public health. We all know that they've had a terrible time of recruiting and retaining help there in their healthcare workers, and this is an effort to raise their salaries to a more market range competitive rate. And so you'll see this in several different areas. There's a $465,000 ad there under 38.3.7. In 38.4.6, this is a one-time funding for ambulance equipment and repairs in McIntosh County, where they were losing their ambulance service down there. 38.4.7, again, this is to add to the retention and recruitment of healthcare workers. Under epidemiology, the same thing, 38.5.4 is a 1.4 million add for that same thing to try to get them up to a more market rate. $38.9.6. This again is in this program here, $341,000 to help get their rates up to a more reasonable market rate. 38.10.4. This is an addition for additional lead inspectors and testing machines to support the recommendations that came out of the House Study Committee on Childhood Lead Exposure under House Bill 1355. That's 1.8 million there. 38.10.5. There again, this is an addition of $458,000 to help with recruitment and retainment. Under public health grants to counties, 38.11.5. This provides funds to increase salaries for the public health workers to address the recruitment and retention on the county levels, some $13.2 million in state money there. 38.11.6, this provides funds to grants to counties for improved infrastructure and support and improvements. And that completes our run-through. Are there any questions from the committee? What's the pleasure of the committee? Have a motion to do pass. We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. It passes. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
all she's done for, I mean, and everybody loves Morgan and everything she's done for us. Matt, would you like to come and sit up here with us, or you want to sit there? Okay. Is there anybody else in the committee? Oh, would you like to come sit up here? You can, we can, yeah, if we can find a chair. Wait, okay. I think we're full, okay. Yeah. Yeah, just sit there. Okay, just pull up a chair. Okay, if everybody get their tracking sheet out, and we'll get started, but I don't know if y'all heard it, but we all appreciate everything that Morgan's done and our chairman's done. If you look at your tracking sheet, throughout your tracking sheet, you're going to find increased funds that would help with the $5,000 cost of living adjustment. And so I will point out those funds in each committee, each division. Let's start with Department of Agriculture, 13.2.1, increased funds for the $5,000 cost of living adjustment. The next one is 13.3.1. We increased funds again for the cost of living adjustment. We had to increase that up to $4,004. The next thing you will find is in 13.4.1, another cost of living adjustment. We had to increase it up to $2,091. The next change you'll find in 13.5.1, we provided funds to increase the maintenance at the poultry veterinarian lab. We increased it to $202,000 plus. The next thing in the Department of Agriculture is 13.7.6. We provided funds to increase the base funding for each conservation district to support local conservation programs, $80,000. The next change is 13.7.7. We provide funds for plan and review and technical support positions to soil and water, $692,000 plus. The next change you'll find will be in Department of Community Affairs. If you'll turn over to page 6 of your tracking document. 16.10.6, we recognize the funds for the food bank in Georgia Grown, and that was one-time funding, so we eliminated that and took the $100,000. Under Community Affairs, still 16.12.1, we provided funds for Resource Conservation and Development Councils, $110,000, and we were just amazed at how much they were putting in on federal funds on such a little bit of money. 16.12.2, the Georgia Rural Water Association, they meet a lot of demands in the state on emergency response and fulfill a lot of needs when we have emergencies with generators, and they work. It seems like we've had an emergency all the time and we've having to call them. So we increased their funds to $250,000. The next find is the Department of Economic Development, page 10. Under tourism. Oh, y'all's page numbers are different, I'm sorry.
What number is it?
The number is 23.9.5.
Okay, same number.
Did everybody find it? I didn't realize that we had different numbers. I'll try not to call out any page numbers again. 23.9.5, provided one-time funds for the National Infantry Museum in Columbus, Georgia, $2.8 million. 23.9.6, to provide funds to the World Congress Center Authority for Public Safety and Security expenses. We're trying to get the World Cup to be in Atlanta in 2024, and $500,000, and this will be for security and other expenses related to getting the World Cup here. 23.9.7, one-time funds for the Martin Luther King Center of Nonviolence and Social Change for facility improvements and education exhibits, $470,000. That's an addition. The next change is in forestry, and you'll find a lot of things in forestry, and it's 26.1.6. 26.1.6, we added $164,000, and this is for to complete the staffing efficiency evaluation that was found in the audit, and determine more efficiencies and savings. And we're going to fund one position, and we felt like that this would also help establish a career pathway and address the auditing findings at the same time. 26.1.7, provide funds for technical training for employees and development retention. Like everyone else, we've been having a lot of trouble keeping people employed in the forestry, and we're going to do a technical training and employee development to help retain people. 26.2.6, and that's some more money for to provide technical training for employees for development and retention, $17,000, and that's under forestry management. So we're going to find one of these in each division of forestry. The next thing you will find is 26.3.6, and I don't know if you remember that when we had the COVID crisis and the state was a little short of money, we told the forestry department if they would let us use their federal grants to plug up some different things in the budget, that we would refund them their money when we got it. Well, we've got the money, and so we're going to restore the money that we owe the forestry department to $1,044,000. And that's some money that they'd gotten from federal grant assistance. 26.3.7, this is $92,000. This is to provide funds for technical training for employee development and training. Public Service Commission, 40.1.7. You might remember that in 2022, we funded a new e-filing system, and this is to annualize the maintenance of this system, $82,000. And this will be annualized. 40.3.4, $974,000, and this is to restore the 8 positions that were reduced during COVID. And you all know how desperate they are to get employees. They've got so much going on with rate cases and many different things, and this will restore the employees, the 8 positions. Do I have any questions? Well, if there are no questions, what's the pleasure of the committee? I have a do pass and a second. All in favor say yes. Yes. All opposed? Thank you, and thank y'all so much for serving.